system from American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning or a Mitsubishi ductless system. Take advantage of financing of up to $15,000 from South Jersey Gas or Atlantic City Electric. New AC system can save you 25 to 35% on your AC bill. Call Jenkins at 609-641-6440, online at jenkinsandsons.com.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
touchdown,
Sixers,
it's good,
and Flyers.
Oh, big save by Carter Hart.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Thursday edition of Game Night, and we are the day after the 14th no-hitter in Philadelphia Phillies history. We will touch on that this hour. Plus, we will talk about the latest from around the NFL. We'll go a little NFC today, not just about the Birds. Coming up in less than 20 minutes from now, we will talk with the Athletic Giants beat reporter, Charlotte Carroll. We had her on last year here on 97.3 ESPN, and she is back to talk about the state of Giants camp. We'll hear what she has to say about what's going on with the Giants, because the Giants are a team, they're very interesting. They made the postseason last year. They played the Eagles in the playoffs. And now you turn around and you're like, well, can they do it again? And I think that was one of the conversations that was had earlier with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash on Football and Forward with Andrew Luchecco. The idea that you have a guy in Brian Dable who did this great job in year one. Can he replicate that with the team in game two? And frankly, if the Giants were a playoff team last year, there's no reason why they can't be again this year. Yes or no? We'll ask Charlotte Carroll coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So let's get to the game last night, because I was talking with a couple of people about this today, and that is, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. Last night, I didn't realize I was watching a no-hitter until like the seventh inning. I'm just watching the game like I normally do, and I'm not really hyper-focused on every graphic on the screen. You know, I'm not looking at the box score line as the game goes along. I like to watch the game and experience it and just kind of let the game happen in front of me. So I wasn't literally sitting there being like, oh, the Nats have no hits in the game. I didn't realize it until the end of the game, until the seventh inning. And then I'm looking around like, wait a minute, have the Nationals even gotten a hit in this game? And then McCarthy made that comment, we got something special going on here. And that's what I said. Oh, snap. We actually got a no-hitter going on here. No-hitter watch. Then all the alerts started going off my phone. Every single app, ESPN, Yahoo Sports, MLB app. No-hitter alert, no-hitter alert. And I'm just like, yep, you guys were about an inning too late to let me know that. So, but it was incredible to watch the game last night, for me at least, because I felt like Lorenzen getting that win last night was a huge moment. And you go back kind of like, what is the aftermath of this? Well, to me, part of the aftermath has to do with looking back on the fact that, how the Phillies even got this guy. How did the Phillies end up with an all-star pitcher who no one anticipated them getting? Well, I'm reminded of what Dave Dombrowski said on the Starkville podcast this week, because he was asked about how the Lorenzen deal even happened.
And it didn't get done till the middle of the afternoon or early afternoon on that trading deadline, because even early in the morning, the asks were different. and the ask were for a couple of people, and then they finally narrowed it down and say, okay, let's push come to shove. I knew they really liked Lee. We like Lee. We didn't want to trade him. But again, you have to give to get. And that's when we finally were able to consummate the trade.
The deal didn't even get done until before the deadline, Dombrowski said, because the Tigers were actually asking for more than the Phillies were willing to give up for the guy. And that is an incredible thought, the process, that you might not have gotten this guy if the Phillies didn't negotiate the Tigers down from asking such a hefty price. And I'll never forget, we were asking the question after the deadline here on 97.3 ESPN, whether it was the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, whether it was me on Game Night, whether it was Billy Schwein in the locker room on the weekend. We all were asking the same questions. Is Lorenzen, is that the move? Should that have been the move? And I also go back to what was said by the national people about the Phillies acquiring Lorenzen. This is what John Heyman said on MLB Central the day after the deadline.
I think this was a great move. They were looking for a back-end starter. Supposedly, they got a guy who made the All-Star team, has a 3.5 ERA.
Yeah.
I think Lorenzen is a great pickup. Their pitching looks great. I always love their lineup.
Well, John Heyman looks like a prophet right now because guess what? Lorenzen looks like the all-star you acquired. Lorenzen looks like he is that guy. And it's exciting to see. I understand a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I saw history. But for me, I'm not as wrapped up in the moment of the history as in how we got here. I can't believe that the Phillies ended up with a guy that when you really break it down, most people were surprised they even ended up with him. And now he's had 2 phenomenal starts for the Phillies. And he's gone out there and pitched above and beyond what anyone would have expected. I think for me, like I said, that's my biggest takeaway. That I didn't just see history last night. I saw history from a guy who in theory wasn't supposed to be here or could maybe not have been here if the Phillies didn't negotiate it down. That this is a guy who is an all-star, but is he really that good of an all-star? In baseball, one guy from every team has to make the all-star game. It's the only one of the professional sports leagues that does that one guy from every team has to make it. And you look at what Lorenzen did before the Phillies acquired him. I don't think anyone is sitting there saying, oh, this guy's an all-star. This guy's going to throw a no-hitter. 3.58 ERA. It's good. It's not great. Guy had 83 strikeouts and 105 and 2/3 innings pitched with the Tigers. It's solid. It's nothing exciting. I mean, the guy literally has allowed more hits this season than he has strikeouts when he was with the Tigers. He had 83 strikeouts, 89 hits allowed. He was a good pitcher. There was never a moment where you looked at the Michael Lorenzen stats and foresaw a no-hitter coming. There was never a moment where you foresaw this special game. And by the way, let's not overlook the fact that Weston Wilson, a guy who is 29 years old, for goodness sake, who have been languishing in the minor leagues for years and years and years, gets his first start in a major league game and hits a home run in his first at bat. I mean, there's a small list of guys who have hit a home run in their first at bat in the major leagues, and now Weston Wilson is one of them. And the guy languished in the minor leagues, and you have a team out there last night that a lot of us were wondering, what is this lineup? Why are these guys in the team? And now looking back on it, it was like the magic elixir. And I think that's what's amazing to me, and that is if you would have told me the Phillies had a no-hitter, it wasn't Michael Lorenzen, I would have guessed Zach Wheeler or Ranger Suarez before Lorenzen. I would have even guessed Aaron Nola before Lorenzen. And then you're telling me your left fielder is Weston Wilson and Kyle Schwarber had the day off? How does that even happen? You had a Phillies team that went out there and played an amazing effort as a group. And I think it's an amazing testament to the game of baseball. That the game of baseball is such a quirky, odd, strange, convoluted game that you will literally never know what you're going to watch from game to game. And I think that is the beauty of what we saw last night. And by the way, as Mike Gill documented earlier on the Sports Bash show on 97.3 ESPN, he mentioned about the fact that the last time the Phillies had a no-hitter was Cole Hamels. The pitcher who pitched the very next day after that no-hitter was Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola, the day after a no-hitter, back when Cole Hamels did it, went 7 2/3 innings and the Phillies won 11-5. Hopefully, that's a good omen for tonight's Phillies game, which is first pitch, I believe, is scheduled for 6:40 tonight. And yes, Kyle Schwarber is back in the lineup tonight. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We are going to talk some football this hour as well because the NFC had 3 teams make the postseason last year. And I think a lot of people are wondering, can that happen again? And the majority of people in a rational state of mind believe the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. But the question is, who's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is the real pressing question. I think a lot of people believe that the Cowboys and 49ers are 2 of the best rosters in the NFC. Well, who are the other 4 best teams then? Do the Giants land in that category again? The NFC North is going to be a very interesting test case because the Lions couldn't make the postseason last year, didn't get in the last day of the year, basically, because they started the year so slowly. You had a team like the Vikings make it last year, but can the Vikings make the postseason again this year? I don't know if they exactly got all that much better from last year to this year. The NFC West, the Seahawks made the postseason last year. They're a better team versus last year. So where does a team like the Giants fall into that? And by the way, remember, the entire NFC East plays the AFC East. And I would argue that most people think that the AFC East is the best conference in the NFL. So now you're asking a division in the NFC East that has had 3 teams go to the postseason last year to try to make it back this year. When your out of conference schedule involves the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Bills. 4 teams that all can have made an argument for them that they're a playoff team. And by the way, like the Eagles, the Giants also play the 49ers. So right off the bat, you have 5 difficult teams on your schedule if you're the Giants. And that's not even digging into the rest of their schedule or the fact they play Philadelphia again the last game of the year or the fact that they got to play Washington in the heart of their schedule or the fact they start the year against the Cowboys, the 3rd game against San Francisco, and the 4th game against Seattle this year. So who are the Giants? How much of a threat are they to the Eagles and the NFC East? Well, we're going to ask Charlotte Carroll from The Athletic coming up next. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And then we'll get to your guys' text a little bit later this hour. Keep them coming. 609-403-0973. That is the text board. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday night.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles open the 2023 preseason this Saturday night in Baltimore against the Ravens.
Up the middle. He can pull a touchdown. Oh, straight ahead.
Eagles radio network coverage begins at 6 p.m. with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick calling all the action starting at 7. This is where the Philadelphia Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's official Eagles station.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Jim Gaffigan here with some more Straight Talk. Let's take a moment to appreciate our sweet children, loving grandparents, and eternal soulmates. Now let's use them to save money on wireless. Because with the Straight Talk Silver Plan, you get 4 lines for just $25 a month with unlimited data and no contracts. So add those human pawns, loved ones, and save money. Thanks, kids. They're finally worth it. Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart.
Get 4 lines on Silver Unlimited for $25 per line per month, plus taxes and fees. For data management practices and additional terms, visit straighttalk.com.
What should we do with the broke propeller? What should we do with the broke propeller? Don't look at me, I wasn't driving. Thank you, you're not helping. I don't even know why you bought this boat. You told me that you loved this boat. That was before you wrecked the boat. Well, now you've made it awkward.
Accidents don't just happen in sea shanties, so Progressive Boat Insurance has you covered. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you can save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, covered subject to policy terms and not available for all boats or in all situations.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The extracurricular activities, the traffic, the nightly homework, the traffic, the finding time to eat dinner together as a family, the traffic. Back to school can be stressful. Thanks to Ziploc, meal prep doesn't have to be. New Ziploc bags with Stay Open design have a patented stand-up bottom that helps keep the bag upright and a top crease that folds and holds for easy filling, unlocking a second set of hands in the kitchen. If only it unlocked a second set of lanes. New Ziploc brand freezer and storage bags with Stay Open design from S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Hey, this is Josh from 97.3 ESPN. If your air conditioning isn't keeping you cool, or if you're worried about sky-high electric bills, I recommend you call Jenkins Plumbing and Heating today about a new system from American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning or a Mitsubishi ductless system. Take advantage of financing of up to $15,000 from South Jersey Gas or Atlantic City Electric. New AC system can save you 25 to 35% on your AC bill. Call Jenkins at 609-.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Oh, don't forget, tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN is the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships. Billy Schweim and the guys from the locker room will have all the coverage from the beach in Margate. So no game night tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN. Then we'll be back next Monday for the show. So before we get out of here in about 25 minutes from now, I'll give you some of my thoughts on the Eagles' first preseason game here on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles versus Ravens on Saturday night. And by the way, really just a quick side note. The Baltimore Ravens have won 23 straight preseason games. I don't know if that's the most ridiculous, but it's got to be one of the most ridiculous stat lines in sports history. There is no rhyme or reason or logic for one team to have that much success in the postseason. I don't understand how that is humanly possible. And for those who maybe don't fully grasp what I'm saying, just hear me out for a second. How on earth are you a NFL team that has rosters changing every single year, an NFL team that has different backups and different guys coming in every single season? And by the way, over those 23 games, it hasn't always been the same offensive coordinator. It has not always been the same defensive coordinator. I know the head coach is the same, but the coaches are different, the players are different. 23 game streak means that this has happened over a 5 to 6 year period for the Ravens. You're telling me in a 5 to 6 year period that nobody has been able to win a game against you with your constantly changing group of players on the field. That's got to be one of the more crazy things I have ever heard or ever seen in sports. Like, there's some wild sports. You always feel like you see something different and interesting. Maybe not always something new, but you see something different and interesting. Like, I had no idea that Carlos Ruiz had caught 4 no-hitters, and that was the all-time record. Like, I would have assumed some dude from like the 50s or 60s, like, the Dodgers catcher or something, or maybe the A's catcher, in the 80s. Like, that guy would have caught a bunch of, games. Not Carlos Ruiz has 4 no-hitters caught. So in sports, you always do see these odd, weird, different things here and there. Like, this is another level of, wait, what's going on? Because in order for you to win in the preseason, you pretty much have to be the luckiest team. You have to be the most fortunate team. You have to be the team that just happens to have everything go right for you in the game. Because the preseason is a lot of guys who they may not have played ever before together in a real game. Some of these guys are rookies playing in their first NFL action. Some of these guys are frankly players who are just there to fill out the roster and don't even deserve to be on the roster. But yet, they're still winning games. So I don't even know what you do with the game on Saturday. Like, if you're the person who pulls up your favorite sports book and you're trying to place a bet on the game, I mean, do you just bet against the Ravens just, to just to say it's going to happen at some point? Like, I don't even know. It's absolutely wild to me that the Ravens can have that many games in a row and not lose a game. Like, I don't know what's more crazy. The fact that the Ravens have won 23 straight preseason games, or the fact that Michael Lorenzen is one of 4 pitchers from his high school who all went to the major leagues and threw no-hitters. I don't know what stat's more ridiculous. I don't. I think they're both absolutely insane. Michael Lorenzen, yes, he went to the same high school as 4 other guys, and they all threw no-hitters in the major league. So first of all, you have 4 guys from the same high school who went and played in the major leagues. That in and of itself is an accomplishment. They all were the same position, pitchers. That's a strange but interesting coincidence. To have one of those 4 guys throw a no-hitter would be cool. 2 of them, it happens. You're like, wow, that's pretty wild. All 4 of them do it. I don't even know what you do with that. I don't even know how you handle that. I mean, do you put a plaque up in the building at the high school and say, we are the home of no-hitter pitchers? How does that conversation go with the athletic department? We got to put a mural up with a picture of all 4 guys and say, and name the ballpark after each one of them. Like, the Walter Johnson Field and the Michael Lorenzen dugouts or something like that. Like, how do you even handle a situation like that? I don't even know. That's absolutely insane. But yeah, I don't know what's more crazy, the Ravens or Michael Lorenzen's high school. Sports, man. It's one of the things you love about the game. It's absolutely crazy. Let's check in on the text board for a moment here at 609-403-0973. We got a text coming in from Tom in Margate. It says, hey, Josh, I have personally watched 10 of the Phillies' 14 no-hitters, but I think the last night was the most electric of all of them, says Tom in Margate. He says, P.S. I wish I could be at a game when the Phillies throw a no-hitter. I did come close with an 8-inning no-hitter. They got spoiled in the 9th. That's from Tom in Margate. Well, Tom, first of all, there's a lot of people who wish they could have been at a game last night. I would like to know for you, Tom, why was last night the most electric? Because you said, Tom and Margate, you said you personally have seen 10 of the 14 no-hitters. So I would like to know if you could reply back, Tom and Margate, why was last night more electric than the others? For me, the Roy Halladay 2 no-hitters in the same year, and one of them being a perfect game, and you have the 1 no-hitter that happened early in the year and the 2nd no-hitter in the postseason. To me, that was the most electric, at least for me. So, and maybe there's a little bit of recency bias with people with this game. Like I said, I wasn't watching the game like, oh, I'm watching a new hitter. I was watching the game like, hey, the Phillies are winning. Lorenzen's having a good game. And then it was oh, by the way, he has allowed no hits. And I'm entering the 7th inning right now. That's the moment I noticed. I remember watching both of Roy Halladay's no-hitters. And I was never watching it like a normal game. I was watching those games like I couldn't stop watching the game. Like I was watching those games because that year, Roy Halladay was just on another level. I mean, I know he won the Cy Young that year, but remember, he was 6th in the National League in MVP. And for me, I remember watching those 2 no-hitters, and I was captivated. I was zeroed in. I was incredibly focused on what I was watching. And like I said, for me at least, the first no-hitter against the Marlins, I was like, this guy's having an amazing game. He finished it with, I believe, 11 strikeouts. And Halladay was having one of those years where you knew he was having a really good year, but that was the moment that you were like, wow, this guy, the Phillies might have the best pitcher in baseball kind of feeling to it. And that's it. Like I said, that's how I looked at the game. The first, I was captivated. I'm a big strikeouts guy. I think strikeouts are a huge part of showing a pitcher's dominance and their assertion toward the hitter. So I was completely captivated by that game. The no-hitter that he had in the playoffs, I was just as captivated, not because as much of he was dominating with the strikeouts, but because of the fact that for me, I knew how important the game was as a playoff series. I knew that, hey, game 1 of a playoff series, this is where this is where you draw the line. This is where you set the groundwork for the rest of your playoff series. So for me, that's how I looked at the Halladay no-hitters. I didn't look at them as just another game. I think that, for me, Tom and Margate, was surprising about last night's game is that you look at, the bigger picture of when something special is happening, you tend to pay attention to the game more. I think back to when Dallas Braden had the perfect game on Mother's Day, or I go back to the Cole Hamels no-hitter almost 10 years ago, or like I said, the Roy Halladay 2 no-hitters, or even the Tommy Green no-hitter. Like, these guys, when they were out there, you knew something special was going on. You knew that, all right, I'm not watching a normal game. To me, that's what's more perplexing about last night. And that is, I don't maybe some of you guys felt differently by the time you noticed, but I know for me at least, I didn't realize it was a no-hitter until they were entering the 7th inning. And I think for me, that is, again, for me, why I think I felt differently about the game last night. Because like I said, I remember the other no-hitters where I was 100% zeroed in. I was like, look, something special is going on here. And, maybe something about the score as well. It was 7-0 last night. Roy Halladay's no-hitters were 1-0 and 4-0. The Tommy Green no-hitter I mentioned, that was 2-0. So, maybe that there is a part of watching that is interesting. By the way, Tommy Green no-hit the Montreal Expos, and Michael Lorenzen no-hit the Washington Nationals last night. They're the same organization. The Expos moved to Washington and became the Nationals. So it's interesting that 2 of the Phillies' career no-hitters, franchise's history, having a no-hit game, both came against the same franchise. So that in and of itself is pretty wild as well. But I distinctly remember the Tommy Green no-hitter because that was when I was first being really indoctrinated about sports and baseball and the Phillies and all that stuff. And, I had gone to my first baseball game as a kid the year before. So for me, I was just then really wrapping my mind around sports and really, digging deep into what I was, because, when you're younger, you're not always watching the game with the analytical eye. You're not always watching the game, digging deep what you're watching. You're just kind of watching the game and this is fun. This is interesting. My mom or my dad or my grandfather or my aunt or whoever, they're watching the game, so I'm going to watch it with them, kind of thing. It wasn't until 91 was the first time I watched a game and I fully comprehended what I was watching. So that May 23rd, when Tommy Green threw that no-hitter, I specifically remember that I was so amazed that Tommy Green had 10 strikeouts and 7 walks in the game. And if I remember correctly, I think that the 7 walks were the most walks he had the entire year. And so the 10 strikeouts were also the most strikeouts he had the entire year. And they both happened in his no-hitter. And I just won't forget about how wild it was watching that game, thinking nobody has gotten a hit off this guy. Nobody has scored a run against the Phillies. And I was so tuned in to that moment. And I think that's what's wild about sports. And that is, for a game like last night, it was absolutely wild that for me, I was like, oh, the Phillies are winning. This is great. Weston was a great story. He hit a home run. We got homers, people hitting bombs. This is a great, and then it's like, oh, wait, this is a no-hitter. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973 is the text board. Josh from Cape May says, wasn't Halliday's no-hitter in the postseason his first postseason appearance? Yes, it was. It was also Halliday's first postseason appearance, and he threw a no-hitter. Halliday pitched previously his entire career with the Toronto Blue Jays and his entire tenure with the Blue Jays. He never, ever, ever got to the postseason and pitched a game. So, yes, you're right. And that's probably another layer why people like me were interested, is because you go back to 2010 and you were kind of just like, man, this guy Roy Halladay, I gotta watch. I gotta see this. It's a good point from Josh in Cape May. Another text come in at 609-403-0970. Texter didn't leave their name that says, I think we didn't notice it was a no-hitter until later because all the great stories of the game, Wilson's home run, etc. I think the Wilson home run was definitely the talking point for a lot of people with me who I was texting with as the game was going on. I think for us, we didn't notice the no-hitter until, like I said, for me, it was the 7th inning. And I was like, wait a minute. And I had I had to step back and kind of process what I'm watching for a moment. George in Summers Point chimes in at 609-403-0973. George says, hey, Josh, and the amazing stat about last night's game I heard is that the odds of a pitcher throwing a no-hitter and a batter hitting a home run in his first major league game are well over 1,000,000 to 1. There have been less players hitting a home run in their first big league at bat than there are no-hitters that have been pitched in Major League Baseball. That makes last night's game even more special than one would think. George in Summers Point. Yeah, George, you're right. It's the idea that two of those things happening in the same game is extremely, incredibly, and wildly rare. And like I said, for me, the Wilson home run was probably the biggest talking point in the game up to that point. And it was, hey, this is a great, feel-good moment. This guy's first major league game. He totaled in the minor leagues his entire life. And then he finally gets to the major leagues. First game, hits a home run. And by the way, he's playing the game again tonight. Nick Castellanos is your DH tonight, and they're putting Wilson in right field to give him a day off in the field. So, obviously the Phillies feel very good about Wilson. But then also last night, Castellanos hitting 2 home runs in the game. Excuse me. And him hitting his career 200th home run last night. That was a huge part of the story. So like I said, for me, after Castellanos' second home run, it's 5-0. And I'm kind of sitting there like, wow, the Phillies are probably going to win this game. Like the Nats look like they got no life tonight. I think the Castellanos and Wilson, like you said, they overshadowed the moment last night until you got later into the game when you really realized what you were watching from Michael Lorenzen and the Phillies. Over on the text board as well, one more we'll squeeze in before we hit the break, 609-403-0973. Mike in Marmora chimes in and says, Josh, I've rewatched last night's game highlights a few times today. I'm not crying. You're crying. Ha. Mike in Marmora. Well, Mike, I think that it definitely, listen, I will never judge somebody for getting emotional about something they're passionate about. Whether you're someone who loves your team, loves your city, and you love to see your team win. I mean, I know a lot of people who cry just when the Phillies made the World Series last year, right? Not just even winning, made it. Things like that, you get emotional about anything that you care about. I think I'll never judge you, Mike and Marmora. I mean, it was a phenomenal moment. It was touching for a lot of people. And, Lorenzen's story about how, the situation with him and his father, and about how, Lorenzen, says, he found God, and he stopped, going out and drinking and partying, and all the things he's gone through trying to become a major league starter, how it was a fight tooth and nail for him to get to this point where he could start games, and then he becomes an all-star, and the same year he throws a no-hitter. It's got all the feels. The game's got all the feels, Mike and Marmora. So if you're up in your feelings after watching that game a few times, hey, man, you ride that wave, because sometimes you got to celebrate the positives. We focus so many times on the negative about players and team situations that we don't appreciate the moment. This is the moment you have to appreciate no matter where this Phillies team goes this season. And by the way, when Terry Mulholland and Tommy Green threw their no-hitters, the Phillies weren't that good back then. So it was even more meaningful for a lot of Phillies fans. All right. Coming up the other side, more your text at 609-403-0973. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Thursday night. Also coming up, I'll give you my initial look-ahead thoughts to the first Eagles preseason game, because we will not be on the radio tomorrow. Tomorrow night is the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships here on 97.3 ESPN.
Hi, this is Billy Schwein from The Locker Room. Join me, former chief of the Longport Beach Patrol, Dan Adams, and former lieutenants from the Ocean City Beach Patrol, John McShane and Jack Brooks, this Friday for 97.3 ESPN's live coverage of the 2023 South Jersey Lifeguard Championships from the beach in Margate.
97.3 ESPN's live coverage of the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships is being brought to you by McCann Realtors of Sea Isle City. Experience the McCann difference. Family owned since 1939. The famous Dino's Subs and Pizza Margate opened since 1964, located at 8016 Ventnor Avenue in Margate. The 7th and 11th Street Bikes, Surrey, and Beach Rentals of Ocean City, open 7 days a week. And by Blitz's Market, located at 21st and Asbury in Ocean City, voted Best Deli 7 years running, now serving freshly squeezed orange juice. Live coverage of the South Jersey Lifeguard Championships tomorrow at 6 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Hey, this is Josh from 97.3 ESPN. If your air conditioning isn't keeping you cool, or if you're worried about sky-high electric bills, I recommend you call Jenkins Plumbing and Heating today about a new system from American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, or a Mitsubishi ductless system. Take advantage of financing of up to $15,000 from South Jersey Gas or Atlantic City Electric. New AC system can save you 25 to 35% on your AC bill. Call Jenkins at 609-641-6440, online at jenkinsandsons.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
The Dell Technologies Back to School event is on, with deals on top tech for class, hobbies, and more. Now, when you buy, you support a cause. With every eligible purchase, Dell will donate to UNICEF in support of GIGA, a UNICEF ITU global initiative to connect schools across the globe to the internet. Accidental damage protection included. Get rare deals on select laptops and desktops powered by the latest Intel Core processors. Save now at Dell.com/deals. UNICEF does not endorse any company, brand, product, or service.
The extracurricular activities, the traffic, the nightly homework, the traffic, the finding time to eat dinner together as a family, the traffic. Back to school can be stressful. Thanks to Ziploc, meal prep doesn't have to be. New Ziploc bags with Stay Open design have a patented stand-up bottom that helps keep the bag upright and a top crease that folds and holds for easy filling, unlocking a second set of hands in the kitchen. If only it unlocked a second set of lanes. New Ziploc brand freezer and storage bags with Stay Open design from S.C. Johnson, a family company.
What should we do with the broke propeller? What should we do with the broke propeller? Don't look at me, I wasn't driving. Thank you, you're not helping. I don't even know why you bought this boat. You told me that you loved this boat. That was before you wrecked the boat. Well, now you've made it awkward.
Accidents don't just happen in sea shanties, so Progressive Boat Insurance has you covered. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you can save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Covered subject to policy terms and not available for all boats or in all situations.
When you get nachos, tacos, empanadas, spicy queso with jalapenos, Pepto-Bismol's there. Pepto-Bismol provides fast, effective relief from nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, and diarrhea. All the things that can happen unexpectedly on vacation. So before you travel, pack the Pepto. Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey, it's Mike Gill. Trio North Wildwood is where casual elegance meets delectable dining. Experience the perfect blend of comfortable atmosphere and gourmet cuisine. Savor our chef-inspired dishes made with the freshest ingredients, featuring options for all tastes. Treat yourself to a night out at Trio North Wildwood and indulge in the ultimate dining experience. Reservations on Resi. Don't miss out on the taste sensation that is Trio North Wildwood. 700 New Jersey Avenue, North Wildwood. Chef-driven, quality-focused, TrioNW.com.
Now, more Game Night with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night, as always, being brought to you by my friends over at Jenkins & Sons, Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. If your air conditioning isn't keeping you cool or you're worried about sky-high electric bills, I recommend you call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 about a new system from American Standard in Heating and Air Conditioning or a Mitsubishi ductless system. Take advantage of financing of up to $15,000 from South Jersey Gas or Atlantic City Electric. New AC systems can save you 25 to 35% on your electric bill. Call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 and visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. I know that Jeff in Ocean City chimed in asking me about my thoughts about Saturday night Eagles game versus the Ravens. By the way, Mel Reese and Mike Smith are back in the Eagles season here on home for the Eagles in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN FM. My thoughts on the game on Saturday go like this. I think there's a couple of storylines you have to keep an eye on. Number one is, even though Nick Sirianni has not said he's going to play in the game, I think that we have a basic understanding that someone has to play. And I think among the guys who are going to play, the three storylines, I had to point out just three right now. I'll probably write about this more nice in the three ESPN in the next 36 hours for the game. But I think the first one I'm looking at is what is going on with linebacker instinct. Because outside Nakobe Dean at linebacker, I don't think anyone is guaranteed a job on this defense. I don't think it's just because Sean Desai is the new coordinator. I think it's the nature of the positions we're talking about. In today's NFL, this is not like when I was younger or some of you when you were young. You know, and I'm going to be very hyper generic in this statement, but if you are of the age of, let's go with 2023. So let's say if you're 32 years or older, okay, you remember a world where every team had 3 or 4 linebackers who got significant playing time. Every single NFL team. In today's game, if there are 2 linebackers on the field, that feels like the max. That is the larger point of this. I think that it is absolutely something you have to keep an eye on because linebacker is not what it used to be. Back in the day, we looked at linebacker as you had a middle linebacker and a weak side linebacker and a strong side linebacker. If you had a 4-3 defense, if it was the 3-4, you had your 2 middle linebackers and then you had your 2 edge outside linebackers. And typically the way it was set up was like, one middle linebacker was your like the captain of the defense. The other middle linebacker was either you're like the opposite style player. Like when the Ravens won their first Super Bowl, it was Ray Lewis, Jamie Sharper, Peter Boulware, and I forget the fourth guy off the top of my head, but Boulware's job was like the blitzer. He would come off the edge and go get the quarterback more often than not. And Ray Lewis was like the captain of the defense. He was defensive player of the year. But Jamie Sharper's job was like, if Ray Lewis was running downhill, he'd drop into coverage. Or if Lewis was going sideline to sideline, Sharper would pick up the weak side of the defense and make sure they didn't get burned on the other side of the play. You don't have those kind of schemes anymore. So for me, I think Jeff knows today, one of the things I'm definitely watching for is the linebacker, because I know that in this scheme, you're not going to see a lot of linebacker play. It's going to be Nakobe Dean's defense as a defensive play caller. But then aside from him, you're almost never going to see more than one guy. And so you're talking about a team that brought in two veteran linebackers, Zach Cunningham and Miles Jack. And even Miles Jack talked about this week about how, hey, man, I don't know if I was playing the NFL anymore. I was thinking about going to maybe be an electrician or a plumber and, go get a real job, he said. And now I'm fortunate to be here. So Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, two guys who weren't even on teams this offseason, you brought in because whatever you're seeing from Sean Bradley, Christian Ellis, Karan Johnson, Patrick Johnson, Nicholas Moreau, and Ben Van Summeren, it's just not enough. And I don't care what Nick Sirianni says. I don't care how much he says, hey, these guys are good players. Nick's talking smoke. He ain't talking truth. You don't bring in two players like Cunningham and Miles Jack if you don't believe that there's a problem with the depth at linebacker. I'm curious to see in this game, starting with linebacker, number one, who gets the first team snaps? Who plays longer than the other guys? Is it a situation where you tell Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, we're going to start you two out there, and then we'll work on the other guys? Do you start Jack as the primary linebacker with Christian Ellis? Is it Zach Cunningham with Sean Bradley? Is it Cunningham and Morrow? Is it Jack? I want to see what the combinations are, because the combinations are going to tell us a lot about what their long-term plans are for evaluating this position. And furthermore, I mentioned Kieran Johnson and Patrick Johnson as well, because even though those two guys are technically supposed to be the backups for Hassan Reddick's overhang linebacker blitzing position, you already drafted Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith is going to be one of your pass rushers on this defense, even as a rookie. Kyron Johnson is 2 years in the league. Patrick Johnson is 3 years in the league. These are two players who were drafted and given opportunities already. Nolan Smith is going to push one of those guys off of this roster. So both of those guys got to come into this game on Saturday night with basically they're on the hot seat. They can lose their jobs. And I don't expect Hassan Reddick to get playing time in this game. He's coming off of an injury, a mild injury, nothing serious. But I'm assuming Reddick and Dean don't play in this game on Saturday night. So I'm expecting to see both Johnson on the field. And then when it comes to safety, as I mentioned, I'm watching safety because between Blankenship, Brown, Edmonds, and Justin Evans and Kevon Wallace, you have five guys competing for what one would assume to be three jobs, maybe four. I don't think the Eagles are going to go crazy deep with safety. I'm getting the feeling, because of Sean Desai's background with defensive backs and knowing what he did in Chicago, he's probably going to go heavier on the cornerback than the defensive back. And when you have guys like Josh Jobe and Zech McPherson, and you drafted Keely Ringo, and you have Josiah Scott here for a reason. You brought in Greedy Williams. You have all these guys who you brought in to play on this defense, and now you're going to have to keep some of them. Look, we already know that Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox are making the team. You drafted Keely Ringo for a reason. Let's assume he's the fourth guy. Well, now you have McPherson, Job. We'll throw in Goodrich just for the conversation, right? Because we know that he's a guy that was a very interesting college player. You have Josiah Scott, who was on the team last year, and you have Greedy Williams. So you have 5 guys competing for, let's say, 2 spots. And if you're going to have 6 cornerbacks, are you really going to have more than 3 safeties on this team? And even if you have 4 safeties, you currently have 5 safeties getting playing time. And only 2 of them are going to, 5 guys competing for a roster spot, but only 2 guys will get playing time. So you're telling me that all 5 of those guys are making this team? I highly doubt it. So those are some storylines I'm watching for the game on Saturday night. Thanks to everybody for texting into the show today. Appreciate everybody chiming in, joining in the conversation. Again, I remind you, tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN, I will not be on for game night. I will be back here in the studio producing for the locker room with Billy Schwein's live coverage of the South Jersey Lifeguard Championship. And I'll be with Billy Schwein Saturday morning here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Eagles football Saturday night right here on 97.3.